Welcome to the Village Board meeting of March 7th, 2017. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Roll call, regular village board meeting, March 7th, 2017. Trustee Maher.
Here.
Trustee Grady.
Here.
Trustee Pinito.
Here.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Present.
Trustee Yunker.
Here.
Mayor Seaman.
Here. Item number 1, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, consider approval of the minutes. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Item 3, consent agenda, approval for the following items. A, consider request from Les Turnus, Owls Foundation to conduct a fundraiser on Saturday, May 13th, 2017 at certain intersections in the village of Tinley Park. B, consider request from the South Suburban Special Recreation Association to conduct a raffle through May 6, 2017, with the winner being drawn on Saturday, May 6, 2017 at the Thornwood High School. C, consider resolution number 2017-R-012 with the Illinois Department of Transportation to enact street closures on Oak Park Avenue from Prosperity Road to North Access Road on April 30th, 2017 from 6:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the Advocates on the Run 5K sponsored by Community Services Foundation. And D, payment of outstanding bills in the amount of $1,260,125.74 as listed on the vendor board approval reports dated February 24th and March 3rd, 2017.
Anybody on the board care to have any of these items removed? Seeing as there are none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Roll call on number 3. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Pinito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Motion carries. Item number 4, recognition of March 2017 as National Athletic Training Month. We have a few representatives with us this evening. Please step up to the mic and tell us about the month.
So we are representing Athletico-Physical Therapy. We are a couple of the athletic trainers that are at area high schools here, including Bremen, Tinley Park, and Oak Forest. March is the month of National Athletic Training Month, so we're here to celebrate and proclaim the March as National Athletic Training Month here in Tinley Park. Our biggest priority is protecting the athletes and people in the high schools, and we're excited to celebrate it and share it all with you guys as well.
Well, ladies, if you'd step up, we have a proclamation here for you. And I'll give it a quick read so that... Whereas quality health care is vital for individuals involved in physical activity, and whereas certified athletic trainers have a long history of providing quality health care for athletes and for those engaged in physical activity based on specific task, knowledge, and skills acquired through their nationals regulated educational processes. And whereas certified athletic trainers provide prevention of injuries, recognition, evaluation, and aggressive treatment, rehabilitation, healthcare administration, education, and guidance. And whereas athletic training was recognized by the American Medical Association in 1990 as an allied healthcare profession. And whereas the National Athletic Trainers Association represents and supports more than 30,000 members of the athletic training profession employed in the following settings: professional sports, colleges and universities, high schools, clinics and hospitals, corporate industrial settings, and military branches. And whereas leading organizations concerned with the athletic training profession and to emphasize the importance of quality health care for athletes and those engaged in physical activity within the aforementioned settings. and whereas such an effort will improve healthcare facilities for athletes and those engaged in physical activity and promote certified athletic trainers as allied health professionals, now therefore be it proclaimed that I, David G. Seaman, Mayor of the Village of Tinley Park, on behalf of the Village Board and over 57,000 citizens here represented, do hereby proclaim the month of March in the year 2017 as National Athletic Training Month. Congratulations, ladies. Thank you. Take care now. Have a good night. Okay, item number 5, Trustee Vandenberg.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would make a motion to consider overturning the decision of the Zoning Board of Appeals to deny and direct the village attorney to draft an ordinance number 2017-0-013, granting a variation for the allowable encroachment for a fence and a required front yard setback.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Our petitioners, Aldo and Marcy Martino, are requesting this variation to install a new 5-foot-tall, open-style aluminum fence at the side corner of their lot at 17804 Bishop Road. This is for first reading this evening.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, may I request, if it's all right with the maker of the motion, this be a roll call because we need 4 votes to override.
All right. Very good. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Item 5 on override, Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
I'm sorry, I was looking for some background on this. I am wondering why the other people denied the request.
Legalities of it.
You mean the zoning board?
Yeah.
Without Yeah, I don't know the exact reasons, Mike, but obviously they had the hearing and they made a, when the zoning board of appeals or the plan commission, after their hearings, they take a vote to either recommend the variance to you or not. They voted here not to. Again, I don't have the exact reason why they didn't, but there was a unanimous vote not to.
Yeah, I see that. Are the petitioners here, or?
Petitioner is here.
I mean, we can have the petitioner come up if you'd like to get more an explanation.
I have
Or
nothing
if,
else to say. Thank you all, Mr. Seaman.
Okay,
or if,
2 more votes to go.
Yeah, so
Wanna finish?
we're in the vote, Mike, so
it's first reading.
And it will
so
come back
it is
for you
first
again.
reading, yes.
Trustee Panito.
I abstain?
Okay. Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Motion
Forward
carries.
necessary, yeah.
Thank you. Item number 6. Consider ordinance number 2017-0-14. Before we discuss this item, I'd like to disclose that I am an employee of DuPage Medical Group, and as such will be refraining from any discussion or voting on any aspect of this variation request. Trustee Vandenberg.
Thank you for your disclosure, Mayor. At this time, I would ask for consideration for ordinance number 2017-0-014, granting a variation from the maximum allowable sign face area for a wall sign in the B4, zoning district for DuPage Medical Group.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
So our petitioner, DuPage Medical Group, is seeking approval of a 59 square foot variation, again, for the sign regulations for wall signs. The zoning ordinance where the maximum allowable sign face for the area wall sign in B4 zoning district is 60 square feet. This, to my understanding, is to just replace the current sign that is on the location of Pronger Smith Medical Care. I don't believe there's much more to add to that. Is there any questions from the board members?
The petitioners are here, so if there's any questions, this would be the time. Seeing as there are none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7. Trustee Maher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This time I'd ask the board to consider for adoption, ordinance number 2017-0-012, adopting a purchasing policy for the Village of Tinley Park.
May we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
The village's purchasing policy is meant to serve as a guideline for an effective and efficient means of purchasing materials, equipment, and services while adhering to legal requirements. The current adopted policy was from the 1970s and was outdated. Highlighted updates included in the new policy include, but are not limited to, the following. Cooperative purchasing. The proposed update adds language that encourages the village to utilize cooperative purchasing with other federal, state, or local agencies when in the best interest of the village. Franchise agreements. The proposed manual adopts and incorporates the village's existing policy on franchise agreements and the recommendations regarding the renewal and/or competitive bidding process. Village manager spending authority. In the proposed update, the village manager's spending authority is increased from the current $5,000 level to a $20,000 level. This proposal is consistent with other purchasing policies the village received and reviewed from other communities. Potential vendor meetings. In order to help ensure the potential vendors of the village are aware of tentative and/or scheduled bids, RFPs, or RFQs the village may be issuing, a meeting will be periodically held by the village to share this type of information. Based on the feedback of the committee, these vendor meetings will be coordinated with the Chamber of Commerce events. And travel reimbursement, additional language was added to the manual which clarifies that proposed travel must be approved prior to a request for reimbursement. The policy also states the items for which original receipts are required. This item was discussed at the November 15th and December 6th and January 17th Finance Committee meetings, and recommended for approval.
Anybody from the board have any questions about this? This item is up for adoption. Anybody in the audience care to comment? Mr. Paws?
Yeah, actually, I do. In regards, when I hear services, and I know that's like a code for professional services, which is consultants, does that mean that the village manager has the ability to go up to $20,000 to go up and pursue professional services?
Now, these are really for budgeted items, Mike. They're not for
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
We'd have
that-
to vote on that.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
And if he does spend it, I think it'd be included in the notes that we get on our spending, so it'd be in there.
Or taken from, no.
Anybody else have any comment or questions? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Item 7. Roll call. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Motion carries. Item number 8, Trustee Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd ask the board to consider first reading resolution number 2017R-005, approving a third amendment to the STC2 LLC and its attorney, in fact, Global Signal Acquisitions, the third LLC lease agreement.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian.
Since 1998, the village has leased ground space at the village's fire training tower for the purposes of a third-party provider, installing and maintaining a cellular tower. Subsequent amendments to the original agreement were made in 2004 and 2011. Recently, Verizon Wireless expressed interest in leasing antenna space at the fire training tower site. While there is adequate antenna space on the cellular tower, there is currently not enough available ground space for Verizon to install the equipment necessary for its cellular antenna. As such, if Verizon is to move forward with an antenna installation, the village will need to amend its lease with agreement to allow for additional ground space area. Agreeing to lease additional ground space will have several benefits to the village, including but not limited to the following. Rent, additional monthly rent of $447 a month. Cellular service, improved cellular service for citizens that have Verizon Wireless service. Prevailing wage, requirement of the third-party provider to pay prevailing wage for the majority of work performed at the site. And relocation, new contract language that would allow the village the right to relocate the tower to an alternative location if it is in the best interest of the village. This item was discussed earlier tonight at the Public Safety Committee.
This item is for first reading. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Excuse me.
Aye.
Were there supposed to be some provisions added to this too? Steve?
You could definitely add it. When we
Well,
talk
this,
about it
just for the
after.
record, I would just like,
Sure.
that's at the, to go ahead and add those provisions for the final
That would be fine. You could, I don't want to.
There was some committee discussion.
Correct,
that-
on
that
a
will-
maximum amount for, or additional language regarding to the relocation cost. Correct.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, Trustee Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd ask the board to consider entering into an agreement with In Digital for the purchase of text to 911 software.
May we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Last year, the village completed an NG 911 and radio console upgrade at the village's command dispatch center. One of the benefits of the upgrades was that the new NG 911 system has the ability to accept text messages as a means of communication with the dispatch center, so long as an adequate software package is available. Funds were budgeted in the current fiscal year to purchase a text to 911 software system, and the village received proposals from 3 different vendors that would provide the software. Upon review of the proposals, it was determined that In Digital provided the village with the appropriate software to utilize text to 911 at the lowest price. Text to 911 will offer several benefits to the village, including, but not limited to, the following: increased ability to communicate with persons in need that are hard of hearing, deaf, or speech impaired; increased safety for persons who may wish to report a crime in progress; and additional means of communication with dispatchers if a caller is injured and/or cannot speak for any reason. The In Digital agreement price is $4,582.80 under the village's budget amount for this project. This item was discussed at the Public Safety Committee meeting held prior to this meeting.
This item is for a commitment of funds. Anybody from the board have any questions? Anybody from the public have any questions or comment? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Item 9, roll call, 911 software enhancement. Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Motion carries. Item number 10, Trustee Yocker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the board to consider resolution number 2017-R-011, accepting a grant of easement for Bannis School pedestrian bridge with the Illinois Department of Transportation.
Move a second.
So moved.
The Village of Tinley Park has been successful in getting 100% funding through the Illinois Department of Transportation for the replacement of the pedestrian footbridge at Bannis School. The project has been approved by IDOT, and all necessary permits have been obtained. The proposed easement will allow for the construction of a sidewalk from the bridge to 170th Street. The easement has been reviewed by the village attorney and approved by the School District 140 Board of Education. This item was discussed at the Public Works Committee meeting held prior to this meeting this evening.
This item is for first reading. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, Trustee Yocker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the board to consider resolution number 2017-R-013, approving an agreement with Banco Joint Venture for the purchase of wetland credits related to the 191st Street expansion.
May we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
In order for the village to complete the proposed expansion of 191st Street from Harlem Avenue to Oak Park Avenue, the village needs to obtain a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. In order to be eligible for the Army Corps permit, the village is required to compensate for any impact of the wetlands that the project will have. The village may compensate for the impact of the project by purchase of .96 acres of certified wetland credits from Banco Joint Venture, Sauk Trail Wetland Mitigation Bank. Upon purchase, the seller will notify the Army Corps of Engineers that the credits have been secured by the village. The purchase price for the credits is $110,400, and the funds are budgeted in the current fiscal year for this expenditure. This item was discussed at the Public Works Committee meeting held prior to this meeting this evening.
This item is for first reading. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 12, Trustee Yocker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the board to consider adopting resolution number 2017-R-006, supporting the Village of Tinley Park's Invest and Cook grant application.
May we have a second?
So moved.
Thank you.
The village has been granted 80% funding from the South Suburban Mayors and Managers Association for the construction and construction engineering related to the resurfacing of 84th Avenue from 159th Street to 171st Street. The Village of Tinley Park is interested in applying for an Invest and Cook grant offered by the Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways. If obtained, the grant will help offset a portion of 20% local match required for the project. The proposed resolution indicates the village's commitment to the project, including financial, and also indicates the village will provide Cook County with the necessary information to facilitate this project both during the application process and should it be selected for the Invest in Cook grant. This item was discussed at the February 14, 2017 Public Works Committee meeting and recommended for approval.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody from the board have any questions about this?
Just don't forget about south of 171st Street. That's what really needs to,
We're all there.
yeah.
We're all there. Anybody from the public here to comment? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 12 on roll call, resolution number 006, trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yonker.
Yay.
Motion carries. Item number 13, trustee Yonker.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like the board to consider adopting resolution number 2017-R-007, approving a preliminary engineering agreement with Robinson Engineering for the 84th Avenue resurfacing project.
May we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
This item was related to the Invest in Cook grant application and the resurfacing of 84th Avenue from 159th to 171st Street, as discussed on the previous agenda item. The proposed resolution would approve an agreement with Robinson Engineering to perform necessary preliminary engineering for the project. This item was discussed February 14th, Public Works Committee meeting, and recommended for approval.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody on the board have any questions? Anybody from the public have any questions? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 13 on final for resolution number 007, roll call, trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yonker.
Yay.
Motion carries. Item number 14, trustee Yonker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the board to consider adopting resolution number 2017-R-008, approving a preliminary engineering agreement with Robinson Engineering for the 175th Street roadway improvements.
May we have a second?
So moved.
Thank you.
In 2016, the Village of Tinley Park authorized a letter of understanding with the Cook County Department of Transportation and Highways to help advance needed roadway improvements along 175th Street, Ridgeland Avenue, and Oak Forest Avenue. The proposed resolution would approve an agreement with Robinson Engineering to perform the necessary updates to the Phase 1 engineering and complete the Phase 2 engineering. The Village of Tinley Park is fronting the cost of engineering with 100% reimbursement from Cook County. This item was discussed February 14th, 2017 at the Public Works Committee meeting and recommended for approval.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody from the board have any questions or comment? Any from the public have any question or comment? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 14 on final resolution 008, roll call, trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yonker.
Yay.
Motion carries. Item number 15, trustee Yonker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the board to consider adopting resolution number 2017-R-009, approving a preliminary engineering agreement with Robinson Engineering for Oak Park Avenue reconstruction and complete streets improvements.
May we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
The village has been granted 80% funding from the South Suburban Mayors and Managers Association for the Oak Park Avenue reconstruction and complete street improvements between 159th and 167th Street. South Suburban Mayor and Managers programmed the project for Phase 2 engineering to occur this fiscal year and construction engineering to occur in fiscal year 2018. The proposed resolution would approve an agreement with Robinson Engineering to perform all necessary Phase 2 engineering for the project. The village will pay the agreement cost and will be eligible for 80% reimbursement from the Illinois Department of Transportation. This item was discussed February 14th, Public Works Committee meeting, and recommended for approval.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody from the board have any question or comment? Anybody from the audience have any question or comment? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 15 on roll call, resolution 009, trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yonker.
Yay.
Motion carries. Item number 16, trustee Yonker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the board to consider adopting resolution number 2017-R-010, approving a local agency agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for the Oak Park Avenue reconstruction and complete streets improvements.
May we have a second?
So moved.
Thank you.
This item relates to the South Suburban Mayors and Managers Grant for improvements on Oak Park Avenue between 159th and 167th, as discussed in the previous agenda item. The proposed resolution would approve local agency agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation, which will qualify the village for 80% reimbursement for the Phase 2 engineering cost of the project. This item was discussed February 14, 2017, Public Works Committee meeting, and recommended for approval.
This item is up for adoption. Anybody on the board have any questions? Anybody from the public have any questions or comment? Let the record reflect there were none. Mr. Clerk.
Item 16, on roll call on resolution 010, trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Benito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yay.
Motion carries. Item number 17, comments from the board or staff. Anybody from the members of the board? Yes, TJ.
Just a brief memo authored by Chief Newbar I'd like to read for the public record. On March 1st, we had an administrative hearing that covered exclusively violations issued by our new red light camera vendor, SafeSpeed. In order to assist with any technical difficulties, SafeSpeed had 5 people on site. As the village transferred over to this new vendor, there were more tickets assigned to this court date than normal. Our staff reports that the SafeSpeed equipment was efficient, flawless, and moved the administrative court hearing along at a pace not seen before. The images provided were very clear, leaving little doubt in the minds of the administrator or the drivers if a violation had actually occurred. Additionally, SafeSpeed provided a kiosk in our lobby which allows people to view their violations and pay by mail any time of the day or night. Now that we have had significant experience with the new vendor, I would like to report that all staff at the Tinley Park Police Department is very happy with the quality of the equipment, the quality of the red light camera images, and the support from SafeSpeed and their staff.
Thank you, TJ. Anybody else on the board have any question or comment? Now it's time for public comment. Anybody have any comments? Mr. Paws.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the first thing I wanted to do is thank everybody that was involved with the Plan Commission hearing that was on Thursday. I don't know how many people saw it, but it was excellent work. Chairman Matuszek, the commissioners, Stephanie and Paula were extremely thorough in their presentation. I recorded it and Facebook Live broadcast it because I wanted to make sure everybody saw. Also, I wanted to thank you, Councilor Connolly, for getting them all split up, the hearings, into 5 separate hearings and for the 5 separate ordinances that are being worked on. So thank you for that. Just a great job by everyone, so I wanted to give thanks for that real quick. Also tonight, I Facebook Live broadcast all the 3 committee meetings. Very interesting tonight. I think people need to see this stuff because this is really where, at the committee level, these discussions that happen. And if you're ever wondering, when the heck did this go on, or how did this come to be, it happens at those meetings. And if something gets shot down or why it doesn't get to the board, it'll happen at those discussions too. So I think it's important that those get broadcast, and I will endeavor to try and get as many of those broadcasts as I can as I'm available. Hopefully one day, Clerk Ray, maybe, possibly, we could get these recorded by the village.
Allow me to respond to this.
We'll let Mr. Paws finish his
comment. Oh, yeah, I'll give you all the time after it, but yeah. So anyways, but like I said, this is, I did the 2 plan commissions previous and the 3 committee meetings tonight. So, like I said, hopefully the people at Tinley Park are seeing this stuff and seeing these important meetings now that they may not have had the opportunity to see since they weren't able to get here. Going on to the FOIA system now. So I did want to thank you, Clerk Ray, that sometime last night, literally as I just commented on it on Tinley Park Hall Watch, they gave the links to my lobbyist request, literally 9 minutes after I commented. So I don't know if you're watching it or if that was just sheer coincidence, but yes, it was there. Now I have had. Now, Trustee P, you are getting your reports, correct? From the lobbyist now, and everybody else, I hope. Is everybody getting their reports now? Okay, great. Thank you. So I did want to thank you. There's still a very inconsistent approach to what gets files, in the FOIA system as to which ones in the full releases have the links to them. Like I know Lucas's got released right away because we filed ours on the same day and he got his link. Now I don't know if because mine was bigger. Is there some kind of thing as to why it took so long for mine to get released and why there's still so many? Could you explain that part? I'll give you time for that.
Well, if you just want to wrap up.
Oh yeah, all right. Well, that those are the big things, because you did ask me at the one meeting, when you did bring up the FOIA system. I have put 5 FOIAs in, and I have kind of watched, to how the system works and how you can track it, and that's pretty good. But like I said, you brought up in the meeting the fact that I should be able to look at all these other FOIAs. Okay, just for an example, I saw one that was interesting last night. Someone had asked for all of the non-police vehicles, in the village. And I was like, this is a really interesting FOIA. I would love to know how many non-police vehicles are in the village that we own. And then I think it was asking for the policies, associated with who has what car and, what you can do with the car. So I'm like, that's interesting. I'd like to know that, but there was no link to it. I'm like, well, whoever asked this FOIA was, it was an interesting question. I wanted to know what the answer was. It was a full release, so I figured it would be on the FOIA system that I could click on the link. But of course, like I said, if I had to make a guess, and I'm just like really spitballing here, I'd say maybe 1 out of every 8 has a link to it. So with that, I'm up on my 4, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. 2 answers. First, and this is for the board certainly as well, the point that you've been making, we haven't been ignoring. And what we have done, and let me just say that the request that's really being made here is that all the board commissions and committees be live videotaped.
Live is more than what I would settle literally for
Then
kind of recording.
Then the same as we do here.
Yeah, ideally they'll be live though. But.
The answer to that is I'm going to present to the village board those options for policy. Normally I'd adopt them myself. By the way, I happen to have no problem with it. 2 issues come up. One is the funding for it, which includes equipment and people. And the second is scheduling, which, by the way, is manageable. But if you go on one of our channels now, like 4, and I watch it, you can go pretty far nuts trying to figure out what you're watching, particularly if you've got 18 different possible commissions or committees. I've watched the Champaign, Illinois. They do all their LRPC. So does Urbana. Our neighbors do not. That doesn't mean we shouldn't. So where I'm heading is, let's try it. Let me put together a package to include the pluses and minuses and the costs. And this is such a larger issue than the clerk. I'm presenting it as a policy position to the board. And hopefully you'll be here to speak to it at the time. Hopefully that policy position will also have solved some of the problems I mentioned 5 minutes ago, like how to schedule it and what the costs are and those kinds of things. The second issue, and this too deserves a discussion, and let me say most of the things that are brought to me by this young man, we try to do. He, at least from my point of view, he asks questions that are legitimate, and you scratch your head and say, and then you go about trying to figure out if there's a way to do it. What we're talking about here finds me as clerk at loggerheads with most of the attorneys that work for me or advise me. And here's what they're saying. The volume of, now this is if somebody requests a FOIA and we produce it, then all you have to do if you ask for something just like what's Pat Ray's license plate? Then you can all get it. The fact, who cares? The fact is that there is tons of data in some of those which our staff and some legal staff question should the requester get it? Yes. But should the whole world see it with regard to addresses, with regard to foreclosures, with regard to banking situations? And so we've asked the other towns around here, no consistency, 0. I personally think we should. But I also deeply respect the pushback I'm getting from professionals that say you're putting Tinley Park residents at risk. That's it. And so, again, I'm not going to ask the board for a policy on this, although I'll certainly develop something. We're still working. And we will develop a policy. But there's nothing consistent here with the towns around us or the users of our new system. We've gone to the other towns too. Nothing consistent. Most of them don't. But the possibility is in the software to do it, as you both know, because you've received it. And we advertised it. So we said, look, we can do this. And by heavens, if I better be prepared to do it.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a comment or question? Lucas?
Hi, just want to thank you for taking out some time to for the Coffee with the Mayor event on Saturday, as you do for the first Saturday for so month. Mike and I definitely enjoyed that. Thought it was kind of convenient that Mr. Fielder showed up, but that was interesting because we got to talk to him also. But I kind of left it with a few questions that I myself didn't have a chance to ask while I was there. I guess I want to know overall, as far as the whole lobbying process goes, as far as when you direct it or when it's directed, how that kind of all goes down. Because as you talked to Mike and I about that, it seemed like you made a contradictory statement. I'm not sure if it was just misspoken or if I just misunderstood. As you made the statement that the direction of what's lobbied for would come out of the mayoral's office, but yet if something wants to be lobbied by a certain trustee, that would have to be like kind of agreed upon by the board. I just wasn't sure if I was misunderstanding that statement or what the overall direction of the process was.
I'll respond. I want to give you a full
That's
time.
my question, so take your time.
Sure.
Yeah,
Here's the way I
a
think it is.
confused.
It's not unlike legal counsel. You can't have 6 people all approaching a lobbyist with 6 different questions, or perhaps even 6 different positions on a particular bill. And I'll give you an example. There's some legislation flowing through Springfield right now around fire pension management, fire liability management. Those are all pretty sensitive issues to us here in Tinley Park because it could jeopardize the way our fire service as it exists today is managed. So those are the kinds of things where we want to be unified in our approach. On that particular issue, we're kind of fact-finding, so there's been no direction given, but that's the kind of thing that we would do. There's occasions where, for instance, you've got the South Suburban mayors and managers that will ask that if there's a position on a particular item, that the mayor send in what is called a witness slip. It's kind of an online process that you do. So if you've got a real strong feeling about something, you can weigh in on it. I think I've done one of those since I've been in office, so it's not that frequently, but that's pretty much the way it works. The idea of having a consistent position is basically we speak stronger as a village with one voice than we do as 8 elected officials.
So for example, as Mr. Fielder had explained to me and Mr. Pauls over here on Saturday, is that his entire job as a lobbyist, or besides just advocating on certain bills within the Springfield, is also to keep you guys updated on what certain amendments are coming through, what certain bills are coming through that are going to affect the village. When he brings this information to you, is it shared with the rest of the board? So let's say Mr. Fielder has some concerns for a certain spending bill or for a certain state budget. Do you share that concerns with the rest of the board before you talk back to him and let him know?
I think to the point that Mr. Panito raised earlier, that there is now everybody's getting a copy of it. So if there's an issue, they can certainly raise it. Very seldom do we, we've got a lot of representation through SSMMA, the Illinois Municipal League, and other organizations that lobby for the village's interest. It's usually only when there's something that's very peculiar or hits our village uniquely that we get into a real active lobbying position.
Okay, but just to make this clear, so then previously when, for example, Mr. Pineda was unaware of, these emails and stuff, there wasn't anything relevant that was brought up, or?
There hadn't been any real hot issues, I would say. I mean, now with this firefighting thing, there may be some discussion, but right now there isn't anything super duper.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir. Good seeing you.
Good evening, Mayor, Board. My name is Bill Burns. My comments have to do with the 2 items on the agenda tonight that dealt with the zoning variances. In the past year plus that I've been attending these meetings fairly regularly, it's obvious that that's an item that comes up fairly often, seeking variations of the zoning code. Most of the time, those seem to be residential issues, replacing fencing that was pre-existing but out of code, and that's understandable. But oftentimes, it seems like a lot of these requests are coming from businesses who are asking for basically bigger signs. And in the one we heard tonight, they want the sign twice as big as the code. And I'm left to wonder, are are our zoning requirements that out of whack with the norm that everybody keeps coming back to us and saying, we need a bigger sign and we approve it? Or are we just doing this? I want a sign twice as big as the code requires. Okay, you've got it. It's not a matter of trying to be business friendly or not, is where's the consistency? If we're going to have a set of rules, at what point do you say these are the rules? So if they're valid regs, they should be enforced. If they're not, we need to get them changed so everybody knows going in that that's going to be the size of the sign or whatever is being sought. The other item that concerned me, and I'm not addressing the facts behind it, but was the fence variation. I'm concerned, and I think Trustee Panino made it kind of clear that at least some of the board members here don't have the information in front of them as to why this appeal is coming to them. And likening this to a court, you take something up to the appellate court, you just don't go up and say, I want that ruling changed. You have to tell them why you think it should be changed. Now, this is the first reading, and this is done so you and everybody can evaluate it, but how can you evaluate it if you don't know why there was this unanimous decision to deny that variance? And again, I'm not going to the quality of what happened and why it happened. My problem is you apparently have not been told why that happened. So how can you do your job as far as deciding whether to grant this appeal or not? So tonight's first reading in that effect is basically useless since you don't know why this was brought to your attention. And the rest of us, who most of us don't attend the zoning board meetings, we don't know what the reason is too. So these are things that have to be looked at very carefully. You're being asked to appeal something, and you don't know why it's been brought to you. Unless Trustee Panito is the only one who doesn't have that information, and I'm going to assume that's not true. Mr. Connolly also apparently confirms that he's not aware of why it is. So that tells me you're considering something, at least on a first reading, without knowing why the zoning board said no and said it unanimously. And I think that needs to be addressed before the second reading so we all, especially the board members, have an idea as to what you're actually looking at here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byrne. Appreciate your comment. Anybody else care to come up and comment? Mr. Eberhard.
You know, after hearing years of complaints about FOIA, we've had the new FOIA law since 2010, I wanted to make some comments about my experiences and the clerk's claims of transparency. Unfortunately, I've got 4 minutes to discuss 7 years of controversy, so I'm going to unfortunately try and stay on a script. 2010, the new FOIA law took effect just in time to require production of documents regarding the Thomas Place project. A group of citizens called the Settlers Pond Neighbors used the information to mount a successful attack on the unlawful changes you made to the zoning ordinance and the building code concessions to benefit the developer, who happened to be a campaign contributor. A while later came the first FOIA for emails. It was a huge production that was an eye-opener for me, but I think an embarrassment for some of you. It made clear there was certain retaliation for the filing of the lawsuit. Another particularly embarrassing email thread involved comments about former President Obama. Politics aside, I was shocked. Whether you like him or not, what was said by your former secretary was outrageous. Not only was she your former village secretary as well as Ed Zabraki's secretary, she was the secretary for your political committees for many years. She was the person who accepted campaign money here at the Village Hall and did political work on village time. She wrote concerning the former president, "Let his days be few. Let him be soon cut off. Let his life be shortened. It cannot be wrong to aim at this, to desire it, to pray for it." Many of the emails in the first production were followed up by requests by the Tribune that later provided fodder for their almost monthly front-page watchdog articles. So with the lawsuit and the production of embarrassing information that had up to that time been your secrets, came the efforts to block production and transparency. Relying first on the snail's pace of the Attorney General's review process, it took 3.5 years for them to order you to produce cell phone records that you withheld, and the fact that very few people have the resources to file a FOIA lawsuit, you became rather obstructionist. You decided sometimes to simply not produce requested information, at other times to redact so the information was incomprehensible. One email that should have been produced in FOIA was released in litigation. That email details how preference in the provision of village services can be based on political support. It was written the night after a Team Tinley fundraiser by a former trustee. He wrote to a citizen who had been at the fundraiser, "Thank you for your support on Monday night. I will make sure that your parkway is one of the first to be treated this year. Many thanks." Not only do you refuse to produce information, you constantly complain about the cost of FOIA, but your preference for non-disclosure fuels the cost that you complain of. Consider this example. I submitted FOIA number 1 asking for precinct vote totals for the 2015 election. Response from your clerk's office, Clerk Ray, was you had no such documents. I submitted the second FOIA asking for copies of local records destruction documents and was provided with a stack of papers about 1/2 inch thick. In those documents was a request to destroy, quote, election records 2015, unquote. Thus, FOIA number 3 had to be submitted to the village. Requested documents that you sought to destroy. Now I got 3 inches of documents, if not more, that contain 3 pages of the summary that I had requested in the first place that was never produced. In an email never meant to see the light of day, a department head once wrote a suggested response to a FOIA that directed me to search vendor reports online for certain information that was located at various locations on the village website. That would have meant numerous clicks to review 1,632 pages of documents. The only reason that email from that department
Thank you, Mr. Eberhardt. I appreciate that. Anybody else have any comment?
Can I yield my 4 minutes?
No, but you can read the rest of his script if you'd like.
I'll take an awful lot of time with your time, and you can read it much better than I can. I'm a very slow reader.
That's okay, sir. We're a patient people.
You read it? Fine, thank you.
This will be like the movie, I forget, Chicago.
Okay, you're on.
All right, the only reason the email was found was because it was accidentally attached to a board meeting packet posted online. It turned out that you ultimately produced 2 pages of responsive checking account summaries that were not available online. Recently, I requested copies of previously produced FOIAs. You refused, citing it was unduly burdensome and claiming you would have to basically re-redact the files. In actuality, you keep files of previously produced FOIAs and could have easily produced copies of the completed FOIAs as you have done in the past. Very troubling is what I read in the ethics complaint filed against the acting mayor last weekend. One of the allegations is that political supporters don't even have to go through the FOIA process to have documents photographed by a source in the village and turned over to them. With all due respect, you continually make public statements and press releases about transparency and open government. The truth has become just the opposite. Okay, we would also like to compliment Laura Gaudette for making a lot of disclosures available that were heretofore undisclosed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comment?
I just have one quick comment. I know last time regarding the lobbyist, I'd asked that it be put on the committee. I didn't see it on the committee. I agree it's something we all be on the same page, but we still need to know what's
We'll
being
make sure
lobbied
it's on
for.
the committee of the whole coming up, sir. Ms. Cunningham.
Okay, I would like to respectfully request the minute that I was cut off at my last meeting, so I would like 5 minutes tonight.
Go for it.
Okay, thank you. I was at the Public Works Committee meeting this evening, and I just have a few questions that have come up in my mind. You mentioned that there are $56,000 in fees that have been collected from the residents of the Odyssey subdivision. Are you collecting that every year, or is that cumulative over the 30 years? Because if it's cumulative over the 30 years, that's like less than $1,900 a year. How can you say that our costs are being offset? Because people may not know this. The village is taking care of the streets and the lights in a private gated community. We are paying for that. So that $56,000, Mr. Bettenhausen, is that every year, or is that what we've taken in?
That is annually, and we don't need to get into further detail. This is still being under analysis. We're still looking at it, still working on it. They are taking things out of context. Thank you.
How am I taking it out of context? You stated it.
Let's hold the responses to your questions so that you've got all your time. I would not like to see you short.
And that was, it was also stated that when the agreement was drafted 30 years ago, or approximately 30 years ago, no one currently on the board was involved. Yet Mayor Seaman, during this Public Works Committee meeting, recalled a point as to why it was drafted the way it was. Roads are substandard there. Well, I want to know why after 25, 30 years, they're still below standards. And why are we paying to have them fixed? Other subdivisions, such as the Pines, South Point, they don't get their roads fixed. They also don't get them plowed. And their lights are not fixed. They have HOA fees that have to pay for all of that. Now, if it's a gated community and I can't get in there as a resident of Tinley Park and drive around as much as I want to, why are we paying to have their roads and their lights, which has also been brought up, are substandard, taken care of on our tax dollars? Would really like to know why that agreement was ever even signed. Who got what as, an incentive when that was taken care of? Because I can't think of any other community that would do something like that. You don't pay to have private roads taken care of. That's why they have HOA fees. And I know you're not going to answer the question, Mr. Mayor, but did the developer contribute to your campaign either this year or in any previous years?
I believe that there are many contributions that I received from people that do business in town. They may have been one.
Did you receive any incentives for agreeing to this because you were in the village workings 30 years ago, correct?
I was on the board.
Right.
I was not a member of the Public Works Committee, as I recall, or whatever.
But you heard about this. I'm sure you knew what was going on because you had to vote on it, correct?
Because they're paying their way. They are paying their way, yes, that is correct.
We're paying their way.
No, they are paying their way.
How?
You just heard it. The treasurer already told you that. You just don't want to listen.
He's telling me that I can't ask the questions, and he gets mad because somebody questions him.
I'm not mad
you
at
also
all.
get,
I'm not mad at
you
all.
also get angry
Neither is
because we
he.
question you.
Neither is he.
Yeah,
They
I don't
are
understand
paying
that.
for it. Thank you. Yes.
Would like to see some documentation that shows what the money that came in and the money that's gone
You will
out.
have that documentation.
When?
When
I've
the
lived in this
treasurer's
community
office-
24
when the
years. You've
treasurer's
not done
office-
one thing to my street.
When the
But-
treasurer's office produces it, you
When the
will have
pressure's off, what do you mean?
it. When the treasurer's office produces it, you will have it. That is what I said.
Yeah. Is it going to be before the election or after?
As soon as he can get it.
I think that's irrelevant. I think the Office of the Administration of the Manager and the Treasurer's Office will provide the analysis that we requested. I think there was a nice candid conversation in the committee meeting prior to this. Questions were asked, questions were answered. They're going to perform some more analysis and get back to us on it.
When?
Like I said, I believe
I
that's
think
an
a
irrelevant
time-
question about any type of election.
Well, I
They're
understand.
working towards finalizing it, getting the analysis to us as elected officials, and then obviously we'll have a conversation about it.
Committee said 2 more weeks, so that's what I wrote down.
There you go.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
in 2 weeks, we should know why we are
Yes.
paying for all of this.
Well, if you are, is what you'll find out.
I'm sure we are. Dan, hey.
Thank
4
you.
minutes, 58 seconds.
Great job. Any other questions? All right, Mr. Stuckley.
I was at home watching the Hall Watch, and a lot of the questions that Ms. Cunningham or Mrs. Cunningham just asked, I heard. They were answered, and what Mr. Vandenberg just said too, things were discussed before, so maybe she wasn't watching, but a lot of the stuff she was asking, I heard Mr. Bettenhausen refer to some of the questions, and I understand what's going on. And like Mr. Vandenberg says, they're in the process of being answered, so I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name's John Moriarty. I live in the Pines.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. We requested that Tinley take care of our private streets, and we were totally denied a couple of years ago. I live on Pine Lake Drive, which is the village street. Other than that, we pay for all of our, out of our association fees, we pay for all the other streets.
Yes, sir.
And I feel that Ms. Cunningham is right. If they're doing it for somebody else, why don't they do it for the Pines? We're 55 and over.
The results will tell, sir.
Pardon?
The results of the study will tell.
Okay, I want to hear about the Pines also. We were turned down.
Yes,
that the village would take care of them streets.
Anybody else have any questions? Ms. Iron, you were already up. You can't come up twice.
Oh, I don't have any remaining minutes.
One whack. No, you get
All
one
right.
whack at
Thank
the
you, sir.
apple. Thank you. All right, at this particular time, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or tribunal, administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. May I have such a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Maher.
Yay.
Trustee Grady.
Yay.
Trustee Panito.
Yes.
Trustee Vandenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Yunker.
Yes.
Motion carries. No announcements are expected at the end of this meeting. Thank you for joining us.